Glad you're here. My name is Scott Harker. I'm a certified gut health specialist, and I'm just really excited to be here tonight. And I'm joined tonight by some dear friends, Paul Wenger. Can you, hey, Paul?
Hey, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
And then we got Kim Ringard.
Hi.
Kim. And Alan Kashner. All dear friends who've experienced, and myself included, experienced personal health transformation. And tonight we're going to be sharing a story with you, our stories, and about a protocol that we've used. And we're going to be talking about gut and metabolic health issues. And if you've been dealing with stubborn weight gain, brain fog, fatigue, high blood pressure, and things like that, we're going to share something, I think, tonight that will completely shift your perspective on that. So let's do something real for a minute. And I want you to take a look at this circle here and kind of think of you in the middle and look at it and go around there and think how many of these different things that you have. Maybe you've got high blood pressure, or you're dealing with fatty liver, or cravings in the afternoon or in the morning, low energy, obesity, having trouble getting rid of the weight around the middle of your in your gut area. If you've got one or more of these, we're going to kind of explain what's going on tonight. And what I'd really like you to do is just take a moment and pause for a minute, go into your Facebook chat or text somebody and have them join, because what we're going to teach tonight could be life-changing. And we want you to share this with as many people as you can. So taking a look at this, what if I've told you these are not separate problems? What if I told you they were all connected? Yes, like obesity and mood swings, type 2 diabetes and cravings, and brain fog is related to high blood pressure. And you're probably wondering how they're all related. And most of the time we're treated in the medical field by doctors that are working on each one of these individual. But all of these trace back to the same root cause. Most doctors treat them separately. And there's a common driver called insulin resistance. Tonight, this isn't about willpower. It's not about laziness. This is about a hormone. And once you understand this, I really feel like you're going to start to understand and see what makes sense about this. But before we talk about insulin resistance, we want to understand what insulin really is. And it comes from a small organ right behind your stomach called the pancreas. It's not very big, but it has a massive job. And every time you eat, your blood sugar rises, right? And your pancreas senses that rise and releases insulin, okay? And so insulin is a hormone that is produced by the pancreas that acts like a key to unlock your cells so sugar can enter in and be used for energy. So it takes it out of the blood and puts it into the cell for energy. And so insulin is necessary, and it's not the enemy. And without insulin, you can't use the fuel in your bloodstream. And have you ever felt tired, like right after eating, for example? And if you have, that tells us of how effective that your insulin is working, okay? And the problem isn't insulin, though. The problem is when the key stops working, and that's what insulin resistance is. And I'm going to show you on this graph a little bit about what it looks like. So you see this graph up here, these pictures, and on the left side, you see this green cell. And when the key goes in, being the insulin, into the insulin receptor on the cell and turns and the door opens, glucose enters into the cell and feeds the cell, and you end up with stable blood sugar and your energy's good. But on this right side, this red cell is when insulin goes in to the receptor and the key turns, the door doesn't open all the way. And so the signal gets blocked. Glucose stays high in the blood, and basically we're starving our cells, right? And that's what insulin resistance is when your cells no longer respond to the insulin. And so I want you to think of it this way, think of it as the cell is being deaf to this, the cell is being deaf to the insulin. And so if I were to knock on a door, come up and just keep knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking, initially you would hear that knocking, but eventually that'd become noise to you. And that's what happens in insulin resistance. And we're going to talk about a little bit later and explain why that happens. But when our sugar stays high all the time and our insulin stays high, and that insulin stays high, eventually it just ignores it. Okay? And so tonight we're going to be sharing about a protocol that helps us with that. And this becomes my favorite part of these lives because we're going to get to share stories about how we've become insulin sensitive. And so well, I'm going to go ahead and skip past this slide here, but I want to have Paul Wenger share with you his story about how he's become insulin sensitive. So, Paul, if you could share with us a little bit about what it looked like before the protocol and after the protocol, and how you became more insulin sensitive.
So yeah, so before I started the protocol, I was a type 2 diabetic, and I was on blood pressure medication, high cholesterol medication, and metformin, of course. And I had a lot of inflammation. I thought my back was bad, just things like that before I started. But I got on it, and like I lost a pound a day for the first 25 days. And I know it's not a weight loss thing, but that was the first thing I noticed. And then in like 3 weeks, I could cut down on the metformin. But in 4 month time, my doctor took me off of the metformin and the cholesterol pills, and the blood pressure pills. She said just keep a hold of them and just take them when you need them. But I never had to have them after being on it for 4 months. And I did it through intermittent fasting and taking the protocol. And yeah, it worked really, really good for me. I had carpal tunnel, I had fatty liver, and all that stuff just cleared up. Like in 4 months, my liver enzymes came way down to normal. So when I started about a year and a half now, probably pretty close ago, my A1C was at 8.2. And when I was in at the doctor's just this past August, it was at 5.4. So I'm no longer even considered a pre-diabetic or borderline or anything like that.
Wow, that's awesome.
So yeah, that's kind of my story. Other than energy and stuff like that, it's just, yeah, helped me get rid of a lot of things that I thought were permanent illnesses.
Yeah, Paul, this question, you mentioned the term fasting, right? Hey,
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about, on this protocol, because when we hear fasting, and the first time I'd heard fasting, it was really difficult for me to fast. How hard was it? Yeah, Alan's going, yeah, me too, right? It was scary. I thought it was crazy because I usually don't tell people. I say I don't talk about fasting. I talk about time-based eating, but because I don't want to scare people off. But talk to us about how easy it was to fast and do time-based eating with this protocol.
Well, the first day I didn't do the whole 16 hours. I don't know if I went 8 or 10 hours, and I gave in and ate. But then the second day, after I had more of the balance in me, it was easy. But now fasting to me is just, I I don't really look at it as fasting. I just eat when I'm hungry. So today I only did one meal tonight. Some days I don't do any. Then there's some days where I'll eat two or three. So I kind of switch it up a lot, but the majority of the time I only eat once a day, and it's just because I'm not hungry. If I'm hungry, I go find something to eat anymore, but it's real easy. It helped me really, yeah. And I was a person that I would eat from pretty much the time that I got up until I went to bed at night. So I say if I can do fasting, anybody can do fasting. So
Good.
and
Yeah.
yeah, by doing that altogether now I lost like 57 pounds.
Wow.
So
Wow. Yeah, let me show that picture again up here, guys, just to show that. Look at the difference with Paul. You can see that, right? And a lot of the signs were insulin resistance, and I resembled the same thing you'll see later, but of how he's become insulin sensitive right now, and he doesn't have those cravings, and he's able to fast. Paul, just one more quick question before we move on to the next person. your energy levels during fasting. What's that like for you? Because a lot of times people feel like, when they're in a fasted state, they're afraid that they'll get tired in their energy levels. But on the protocol, what's your energy level like?
But my energy level is like real good. It's a lot better than what it was, of course, before I started. I used to be tired all the time. I mean, I'd sit down and just fall asleep, and that doesn't happen anymore. So yeah, it's really helped my energy. And I always thought too that, if you get low in energy, you have to eat, and most of the time you'd go for something sugary and you'd get that fake energy for about an hour, then you was back to square one. And by doing the fasting and stuff, you get that real energy, and you're not always tired, you're not always ready to just sit down and do nothing. And I now I look for things to do. It seems like I'm always doing something where otherwise I look for places to sit down. so
All right.
so
Well, that's
that's
great.
yeah.
Tremendous story. Losing weight, inflammation, fatty liver, right? All of that. That's a great story.
Right.
56 pounds. Wow. What a awesome story there, Paul. Well, I'm going to introduce to you the next person here. Let me bring up new slide here, and I'm really excited. If I get the slide to move forward, Kim, just recently got to know you within the last 2-3 months, something like that. But I've never really got to hear your story and see a change in your pictures. Your pictures look great. If you could just spend a few minutes just sharing with you or sharing with us about your story, about how the protocols helped you, and what that looks like before and after for us, it'd be great.
Sure. And actually, before I start, people have been messaging me that they're having a hard time. They can't get on. So I don't know if that's happening across the board, Scott, but I just want to let you know.
I
Um,
don't know. You can just message them back and just tell them to tap on my Facebook circle there on my face. I'm on it as well. I'm checking, and I see some other people on, so I don't know.
okay.
I'm checking. It shows live, so
Yeah, that's okay. Okay. It's fine.
yeah.
But yeah,
And then
no,
let them know that there'll be a replay here afterwards, so they can go to our page, and then each one of us will get to have it shared with them. So you can go to any one of our pages, and it'll be there later,
sure.
up for at least 30 days.
Yep, I'll let them know. Thanks. Yeah, so my story is 2 years ago, I found out I was type 2 diabetic. My A1C was 13. My blood sugar was in the 350. So anyone that knows that knows those are pretty dangerous numbers. My blood work at that time also revealed some other health issues. So I didn't realize actually how unhealthy I was. But, right away I changed my diet. I'm at the doctor's. I saw an endocrinologist. I went to a diabetes specialist, and not holding it against them, I realized that they were putting me on the wrong path. But of course, I listened and I went on insulin, Rybelsus, metformin, and I wasn't happy about that. So I started researching. I read books and videos and talking to other diabetics, and I just flooded my head with all kinds of crazy things. But I was on Facebook and I saw a guy by the name of John, and he kind of triggered something. And I'm like, okay, what he's saying makes sense here. So I tried to connect the dots and started watching some testimonies. And it just was kind of amazing because there were so many people across the nation that were talking about this, the supplement. And there were even medical professionals that were using it. So I was still skeptical, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to try this. And I did. And some of the immediate effects that I felt were I couldn't believe what I was feeling. My stomach would burn all the time. And so then I would have to feed that burn. So I would be grazing throughout the day. I noticed within like 2 days, I'm like, hey, my stomach's not burning anymore. This is bizarre. My energy almost went up instantaneously. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty good because I was feeling good from having that energy. And the other thing is I didn't have an appetite. And I'm like, okay, now that's really weird because I was using it. So I was still skeptical, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to try. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty good because I was feeling I'm getting a lot of feedback on.
Oh,
Are you
sorry,
guys
that was me. Sorry, I got it. You shouldn't get any now.
okay? So that was what happened instantaneously. But
Mhm.
it just kind of went from there. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to be honest with you. So John reached out to me and he said, Kim, you're having some pretty, good results here. Would you be willing to, jump on a live with us? And I said, you know what, John, I'm probably not because I'm not that person. But guess what? Here I am. And I'm here for a very good reason. And if I can share and help one person because of what I've experienced, then I'm happy. So again, here I am. So some of the things real quick that worked for me. So I had more blood work done. Every time I went for blood work, my blood was getting better every time. My blood
Mm.
work was getting better, showing improvements. I started losing weight and I found out how easy it was because I wasn't hungry and the cravings that I had, the sweet cravings. I was a sweet man. Most diabetics are. They just crave sweets and bread and stuff like that. Those cravings disappeared. Um, I ended up losing 51 pounds, which I went down to 115 pounds, and that was too much for me. So I actually had to put weight back on. Like I said, with the stomach burn, before I even knew what leaky gut was, I used to complain like, oh man, my stomach's burning. Oh, I'm so bloated all the time. Well, here I didn't realize that I had the leaky gut. That's all gone. My sleep was awful. I haven't slept well in years. I now sleep solid. These
Awesome.
are the things that I've actually experienced. The brain fog, I'm that person. I walk in the room, okay, why am I in here? What the heck am I in here for? I'm so much more alert and so much more attentive. That's just realistic. And then I started getting these shooting pains. I would like jump every once in a while. Oh, I just had a zinger, like almost like a lightning bolt. And I'm like, what's going on? Like I would get these zingers, and then I would lay down in bed at night and my feet would start to tingle. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think that's neuropathy. I think that's what's going on. Well, guess what?
Mm.
Well, it's gone.
Going. Awesome.
So, all of these good things are happening, and I'm not embellishing any of it. I mean, it's real. That's why I'm here tonight, because it's real. And I'm the person, before I put my name to anything, I want to know. I don't want to hear, I mean, and the testimonies are wonderful, but I want to know what's my experience. And I've had wonderful experiences. Now, I have one last thing, if you don't mind, I want to end
Yeah,
with,
sure. Yeah,
because
we got
this is the most rewarding thing for me. So I've played sports all of my life. And since I've been 20 years old, I've had chronic pain. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, I guess this is what, getting older is. You just put up with the pain and you push through it. And that's the way life's going to be. I would get out of bed in the morning and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm limping out of bed and achy and whatever. Now I get up, I get out of bed, I am zipping at 5 in the morning, ready to roll. This is the best I have felt in I can't tell you how long. And that is so rewarding to me. You know what, guys? I've had 2 hip replacements, 2 neck surgeries. I was scheduled for back surgery. I canceled it. My pain was coming back. My hands were hurting. And I can, for the first time in a long, long, long time, tell you I have no chronic pain. None.
awesome.
I mean, I could cry because I lived through pain for so many years. Again, I'm not exaggerating. That is how I feel. And I just really wanted to share that. So this gets my stamp of approval.
Awesome.
Great testimony.
Kim, that's a wonderful story, and you touched up on so many things that, honestly, as a gut health specialist, I get really geeked out on, to be honest with you, and I'd love to share. So I could spend an hour talking about a couple of those things, but I really just want to talk about a couple things here real quick that you brought up. You were talking about leaky gut, and leaky gut when we get the leaky gut, right, that it has so much to play into insulin resistance and the short chain fatty acids that basically we don't produce anymore, that helps us helps us become insulin sensitive. But you were talking about being able to sleep, right? To not have chronic pain. When we have leaky gut, right, all those toxins get released into our system, and we get this immune response, and that's what's causing all that inflammation and things like that. So repairing that gut, and I know Alan, he's going to talk a little bit about how these products and this protocol helps us in a little bit. But that's so important to insulin resistance and all the things you were talking about is starting to fix the gut and heal the gut, right? And also of how we feel, because and it's tied to your sleep, but your dopamine and your serotonin, most of that comes from your gut, right? And so that's just a real testament to how fixing your gut and starting to take care of the gut starts to fix a lot of these chronic issues that you are having, the chronic pain, and how it ties to insulin resistance. So that's so exciting to hear that. And so I'm just going to say congratulations for all the being on this protocol and how the good benefits that you've gotten from it. And so it's just really awesome testimony. So thank you, Kim. I hadn't heard all of that before, and even though you and I were on the phone, but the actual progression there. So that's just awesome. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yep. Happy to
All
share.
right. So let me try to figure out how to get back to my slides here. I want to introduce to you a good friend of mine. Going to switch slides here to Alan Kashner. Alan, you and I got to know each other about a year ago this month, actually about 2 weeks ago. I can say great friend. And I'll share a little bit when I get to share my testimony a little bit, but what Alan, helped me with and how I got to meet him. But Alan's a dear and special friend to me, just not only just because he's introduced the protocol to my wife and I, but just getting to know him over the last year. And I realized this the other day, it's been a year, Alan, since I got to basically meet you. And what a year it's been. So just want to say thank you publicly today. But I want Alan to share. He's going to go into sharing a little bit about what the protocol did for him and his family, and then share basically how the protocol works. And so, Alan, I'm going to let you take it away, and you can see the change here with Alan. But I'm going to bring it up to full screen so you can see him. And so, Alan, thanks for joining tonight.
You bet. You bet. So before I ran into this, I mean, I was in a pretty bad spot. I was 60 years old, and I had been diabetic. I became diabetic at 40, and I was scared at that point. But they put me on a med, and it seemed that I could just do whatever I want, and the meds will take care of me. And that was kind of I thought that's the way it worked, and I think a lot of us have felt that way. But I know I did. And it didn't work out very well because I ended up ballooning up to 360 pounds. I was on 4 different diabetes meds, and my A1C was still too high with 4 diabetes meds. I had to be weeks, months away from getting on insulin. I usually don't hear about people being on 4. Usually they switch you to insulin before that, it seems. And I mean, I had fatty liver, I had acid reflux meds, cholesterol, high blood pressure. I mean, I was a picture of health. And I mean, tired all the time, like a lot of you guys mentioned. And my doctor was an endocrinologist, and he wanted me to have bariatric surgery where they cut away 3/4 of your stomach and sew it back together. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to figure this out. And like a lot of us, I mean, we're going diet to diet to diet, just praying that next one works. And it doesn't, and I didn't realize at that time, but here's a precursor where we're going. If your insulin levels are high, it's telling your body to store fat, don't burn it. How do you go about diet and exercising when your insulin's telling your body to store fat? It doesn't, least effectively. So we need to tackle that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more tonight. But man, I just kept trying different things, and I mean, he kept after me, and I'm like, no, I'm going to figure this out. And the reality is, I couldn't figure it out. And I got to the point where I figured, I am just going to die young, and there's not a dang thing I can do about it. And it's a bad feeling when you get to that point. But if you're there listening to this thing, listen to what we're saying. We can turn a lot of that stuff around, and this saved my life. So I prayed for a solution because I sure as heck didn't know it. And a friend of mine, John, shares this concept with me. And I'm like, it sounded logical, but I'm like, why would this 101st thing work when 100 other things didn't? And I was super skeptical, but I thought, okay, my wife and I jumped on this, and we're just going to prove it wrong, basically. And unbelievable. I was able to get off all 4 diabetes meds, now in non-diabetic range. I reversed my fatty liver, your ALT and your AST blood work all came back in line. I got off my cholesterol med, my acid reflux med. So I got off 6 meds in total. And when I fixed a couple things that we're going to be talking about, I'll talk about this next. Basically, I reversed my insulin resistance, got my gut health right, and lost 72 pounds, where I couldn't do that for a decade, trying my hardest. I mean, it's nuts, what this can do, and it's all natural. That's what, it's crazy. So my wife, she jumps on this too, and she lost some weight also, but her key thing is she had kidney disease stage 3A for the last 3 years continuously. I don't know if you know the scale of that, but it's a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is kidney failure and dialysis. I mean, you do not want to be at 5, right? She's 3/5 of the way down that scale continuously for 3 years. She jumps on this protocol, with me, proving it wrong. 7 weeks into this, she happens to have an appointment with her kidney specialist. They do all their testing and everything else. And she meets with the kidney specialist. And they said, I don't know what you're doing, but you virtually no longer have kidney disease. In 7 weeks, she's been into at least 4 or 5 more tests over the last 3 years. No kidney disease. Guys, we can fix so many things. Scott showed that slide up there of all that circle of all the different things going on. And really the root cause is insulin resistance. And I look at it as poor gut health. If you look at the things, I'm going to kind of transition here, Scott, if that's okay. But if you look at the things stacked against us in really quick terms, I mean, you got the food industry adding sugar by 100 different names to our stuff. They're stripping the fiber out of our food. You take wheat, they strip out the bran fiber, and we're left with stuff like white bread that spikes the heck out of our glucose. An apple, God wrapped in protective fiber, but they strip all that stuff out, and we're left with sugar water. I mean, apple juice or diabetes in the glass, however you want to look at it, right? So that fiber is so important. I mean, it lowers our triglycerides, lowers our glucose and insulin spikes. It feeds the healthy bacteria in your gut to offset the inflammatory ones, get your gut health right, get rid of the leaky gut that was talked about earlier. And it also helps reverse insulin resistance and get your life back, So we have all these things stacked against us. So the result today is only 7% of us are metabolically healthy. They estimate 80-90% of us are insulin resistant today. That's horrible. I mean, only 5% of us today are getting the appropriate amount of fiber. So 95% of us either have poor gut health or we're screaming toward it, right? So how do we tackle these things naturally? I mean, Big P, they got the answer. They'll just medicate us and they'll treat the symptoms, but they don't fix the root cause. And if you do not fix the root cause, it'll morph off into another symptom that, again, they give you a med for. That's the way things are today, right? So this protocol, I'm going to share how it actually helps fix those 2 things. And once you fix those couple things, you can start reversing a lot of the health issues. So let's talk about insulin resistance. How do you reverse insulin resistance? One very, very effective way of doing that is to skip breakfast. If you look at our goals, we want to keep our insulin levels down. Today, we're grazing all day long. We're on this glucose ride. When your glucose goes up, like Scott had pointed out with the pancreas, your insulin also goes up, but it comes down at a lot slower rate. It's trying to come down, but we have another snack, goes back up. Our insulin levels are high all day long, and our cells become resistant to the insulin working, like Scott showed. So if you look at supper the previous night, if you do not put anything in your body until lunch the next day, yes, you can have water and black coffee. you have 16 to 18 hours to finally allow your insulin levels to lower every single day. Now, if you're like me, I was scared to death of doing that. Like Scott was saying, I mean, fasting, I can't do it, you know. But here's the deal. There's two tools in this protocol, and they're all natural. The first tool is a concentrated yerba mate. Yerba mate is just a plant in South America. It's got some amazing properties, though. It curbs your appetite, makes it easy to skip breakfast, skip your mid-morning snack. You just don't eat in the morning until lunch. It also, curbs your appetite, gets rid of the food noise, accelerates fat burning and ketone production, clears brain fog. Awesome, awesome tool. We just mix this with some water and sip on it through the morning so that when you're not eating, you're taking this tool, curbs your appetite. Such an amazing tool. We take another one in the afternoon, sip on it through the afternoon, curbs our appetite. We don't need to be snacking anymore. We can eat lunch, we can eat supper, and eat them well. So we still have to concentrate. We still have, we want to keep insulin levels low. So we definitely try to minimize at least, sugar drinks and treats and, apple juice, pop, energy drinks, cakes, pies, pastries. I think we all know that just spikes your glucose. So minimize those things. But the second tool before our highest carb meal, which is typically supper, but for you, maybe it's lunch, but before your highest carb meal is where the second tool comes in. And this boils back to only 5% of us are getting the appropriate amount of fiber. This puts fiber back in your diet, a diverse, multiple fibers, handpicked by scientists to fix our gut health. Offset the inflammatory ones, start healing your body, helps reverse insulin resistance, a number of things, lowers your triglycerides. This will knock down your glucose and insulin spikes by up to 40%. That's quite the protection, right? But again, fiber, we don't get the fiber that we need. What else? That helps you feel fuller so you don't overeat. I mean, I remember you in the beginning, Scott, you talked about, oh my gosh, I mean, I'll order a meal and I can't even eat it all. I mean, it really does fill you up. So these two tools can help you reverse insulin resistance, and get your gut health right. I didn't mention it along the way, but again, for me to do this without the tools to skip breakfast, I mean, I think most of us, in 2 weeks trying to iron will through the hunger, it's just not sustainable. People drop off, unless you're a unicorn type person. I mean, that's how I couldn't do it. So this tool just makes it possible for me to lower my insulin levels. You can typically reverse them, reverse insulin resistance in a couple weeks, and then start making progress on reversing a lot of health issues that are related to those. As far as the food, the fiber portion, you can go to the grocery store. You can load up on all the different kinds and colors, of vegetables, especially favoring, insoluble, type herbs, nuts, seeds, stuff like that, and load up on all that stuff at the beginning of your meal, and you'll get those same benefits. But I don't know about you, but to prepare that plethora, I still try to focus on, some fiber stuff, but to have that plethora and to make it in today's busy times, it's tough. This tool makes it so easy. And for me to pick the fibers that are the best for me, scientists did this for us. So that's I didn't get into the patents and all kinds of stuff like that, Scott, but I think you're going through that in a little bit, right? In a little bit
Yeah,
more
we'll
detail.
talk about that a little bit, but yeah. And you were talking about this, these fibers, but they're, you mentioned this earlier, but it's an all natural product, right? And that's, really, 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 important. So yeah. Well, John, or Alan, thank you very much for sharing that. Alan, I'm going to go into my story here a little bit next, and I want to show our pictures here. Let me bring this up here. I'm having some trouble with there it is. So I'm going to share for my wife a little bit too tonight. But Alan, I really appreciate you sharing this product with us about a year ago, and I'm going to tell you, I gave Alan, he probably didn't know it, but I was giving him a little bit more hard time than he thought I was, because he first contacted me about this product. I'm a certified gut health specialist, and I help and I coach people. And my story is I got into the business of helping people with their gut health because I dealt with ulcerative colitis, and my father died of colon cancer, and it became a passion of mine. And I wrote my own protocol to deal with ulcerative colitis, and because I wanted to not use a lot of the medicines, because a lot of the medicines that were being given to me were causing a lot of side effects. But I will be honest with you, you can see in these pictures, I still couldn't get rid of a lot of the weight that was on there and struggled with it, and was looking for different ways to help get the weight down. My wife, Jennifer, who couldn't be here tonight, was dealing with pre-diabetes. And I'm just going to show this picture for a minute, and then I'm going to take it off. But we were introduced to the protocol by Alan, and after I decided to try it, and my background's in engineering, I studied all the patents and went through it before I tried it. I wanted to have a protocol or something that I could use with my clients that I felt very comfortable with, being all natural. And after I dug into it, it looked very good. And so we tried this protocol. And honestly, we found I was quite surprised, because I was looking for every reason to not use it, to be honest with you. Because I was trying to develop my own protocol, just to be honest with you, and developing that. And when I came in here and looked at this and started using this with my wife, I'm going to use her first because she wanted to get onto something because her blood sugar levels were going up to 130 to 140 in the morning. But when she started using it, within 2 weeks, it came down to 80 to 90 in the morning, which is just amazing for us. She was having tingling in her fingers, starting to get that neuropathy that you were talking about, Kim. Increased energy. And this last year, she's been on antidepressants for over 30 years. And she's been able to go off of those meds. And then she lost 40 pounds. For me, I lost 45 pounds in 16 weeks. Blood pressure came back to normal. I wasn't on any medication, but it was higher than it should be. And I was kind of ornery trying to find something that would help me. But my blood pressures are normal, reduced inflammation. I was just having those as you hit your 50s. I'm 52. You start to feel those aches and pains, right? The things that you start when they say you're getting older, right? But those have went away. I've got a ton of energy, and my psoriasis is improving. That's taken some time, but it continues to improve and get a lot better. So, and a lot of those are tied to your gut health. And so for us, it's been life-changing. It's been exciting. It's been something that I can share with my clients. And I just feel so much better in how it's helping us and my wife and I. And one of the we feel really, really good. And one of the things that we hear a lot of times as well, a lot of the symptoms that all four of us on this call have been probably told. And if you're out there listening tonight, you've heard, well, these things just come with age, right? It's just because you're getting older, right? Well, I'm going to tell you it's not. It's because of the lifestyle that we've been living. And what I mean by that is the kind of eating and the way we've been taught to eat. Alan, you keyed on for so many things about our food and how we eat and eating all the time and that insulin level staying up there all the time. But most of our, out of the top 9 out of the top 10 diseases that kill us, right, are all metabolic related. And I don't have the graph on here tonight, but number 6 or 7 on there is actually related to respiratory diseases. But I really think that's related to it as well, because our immune system is tied to our gut, 70% of it. And when we have a strong immune system, then we can also fight off those, respiratory type things, or at least a lot better. Right. And so keeping our immune system a lot better is improving our immune system through our gut health is so important. So the other thing is that I wanted to add to that is tonight, if you're on here and, you're thinking, well, hey, I want to lose weight. We don't talk about this. You haven't heard us talk about, well, hey, this is a weight loss protocol. You've heard us talk a lot about how we have lost weight, but how other symptoms have gotten a lot better. And what we look about it is, and the way we look at this is once we start to heal our gut and start to heal within inside, the weight comes off naturally. In fact, a lot of times, or with some of my clients, and I know, Alan, I've heard you say this before with some people, but we've experienced is people necessarily don't lose weight in the first 30 days. But what we'll see is their inflammation comes down. And I've had clients where they're like, I just don't understand it, Scott. I've lost like 2 inches, but when I step on the scale, I haven't lost really any weight. Well, it's because we're losing that inflammation. We're putting the muscle back on that we've lost, right? Things are getting redistributed where they need to be because our body is starting to heal from the inside out. And tonight we look at this protocol is something that where we start to heal the body from the inside out. So your body goes through a reset and gets balanced the way it was supposed to work and the way we were made to work, right? And so I just kind of wanted to share that a little bit because I've experienced that firsthand. And why I don't have a real good picture of what I look like now, yeah, hopefully you can see on the screen versus what I look like, where I've been able to lose a lot of the weight around the belly, around the face. And I can just tell you, my energy level's up. And I was scared to death, honestly, to fast. I had tried it before, couldn't do it. And I should have known by my training, a lot of that really comes from when we have dysbiosis in the gut. Alan, you triggered in a lot about the gut, but when our bad bacteria overwhelms our good bacteria, our bad bacteria sends a message to the brain and says, eat, 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 right? And it wants the sugar. Like Kim, you mentioned a few minutes ago, you said, well, usually when you're diabetic, you like to have sugar, you know? Well, that's really a lot of things you were talking about was the gut. And the bad bacteria craves those carbs and those sugars, and it sends a note or up to our brain and says, I need those carbs and those sugars. So anyway, this is a protocol that's been life-changing for my family and I. So as we go through there, so I just want to kind of go back over a little bit of the products here, the tools that we use, and show these again. Alan, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time because Alan spent some time on these, but the one that he talked about was the fiber. I'm going to get that on the camera. Camera's on the wrong side. But it was the fiber that we spent some time talking about and how much it helps us, right? That fiber feeds that good gut bacteria and helps you with leaky gut and gets that microbiome back in balance. And when we nourish the gut, right, we support a healthier environment. It makes us feel fuller. And we take this right before we eat. And this helps us feel more full and helps to start to balance our blood sugar. And Alan had talked a little bit about how it lowers our blood sugar. And what this does is when you eat, that fiber offsets that spike in your insulin because it keeps that blood sugar level lower by up to 30 to 40%, depending on how healthy our gut is. And it gets better as our gut becomes more healthy to keep that lower. And so it helps with things like IBS and constipation, diarrhea, your skin. And the reason it helps with the skin is because we don't get that inflammation anymore. We don't have those toxins leaking through our gut into our bloodstream anymore. And therefore, our skin then starts to heal. That inflammation starts to heal. And then the anxiety and depression. I mentioned that my wife had gotten off of her antidepressants. And the reason it is she starts to improve that gut microbiome, and therefore her balance of her hormone levels have started to come back. Her serotonin, her body knows how to respond to serotonin and dopamine now. And so tonight, I don't want you to hear us say, hey, take these and get off your medications. That's something you want to work with your doctor on. But it is something over time, as Alan and Kim and all of us have shared, if we're on medication, right, we can work with our doctors and start to come off of that over time and working with them. So the next tool that I just want to reiterate that Alan shared here is the unamate. It's a yerba mate plant, all natural, comes from South America. And it helps us feel, I would say, a better well-being in how we feel. It supports that healthy cognitive process, helps maintain our stamina. It promotes the body's ketone production. And what that really means is that when Alan was talking about that fasting window, when we get to about 16 hours, when we're in that fasting or time-based eating, where after we've not eating anymore, and we start to get into we're in our fat burn mode, the fatty acids in our liver starts to produce ketones, which our brain really loves to eat. And that becomes great food for our brain. And that helps us with our thought process. And then also our liver produces a 67% more GLP-1. Now, this is not a GLP-1, but it helps our body do that naturally so that you don't need those shots. Okay. And so our body already has that ability to do that. We just got to get it working again. And that's what this product does for us. So, guys, how easy is this to use? Do we think it's pretty easy to use? Yeah. We carry these everywhere we go, these products. I'm curious. This is more of a polling question for the ones on it. How many of you guys, do you guys drink this hot or cold, the yerba mate? Do you guys drink it hot or cold?
I'm on ice all the time.
Same here. I like it cold.
Yeah. You like it cold? Yeah, my wife, she drinks it hot. So we've got a couple of the products where we use, some of them folks like them hot, some like it cold. The fiber we drink typically cold, and just because of the way it gets a little bit thicker. But just to kind of go back through what Alan was sharing is the way we use this product is we start our day out by drinking one of these as the Unamate, when we drink that and we sip on that throughout the morning, and then we break our fast at lunch. And if lunchtime is our highest, I'd say carb-laden meal, then that's when you would take the balance. And we take that somewhere between right before when we eat, the 15 minutes. I usually wait 15 to 30 minutes before, because that even makes me feel a little bit more fuller. It helps my body recognize that I've got something in my stomach, but I don't wait any longer than that, because you want to keep the effects of it when you eat to help keep those glucose levels down. And then the afternoon, we turn around and use the Unamate again in the afternoon, and we sip on that throughout the afternoon instead of snacking. And then in the evening, if you haven't used yours at lunch, then we use one of these at dinner time to help keep that sugar levels down and that glucose from spiking so high. And so it's really simple. 2 tools with time-based eating, 2 of these a day, 1 of these a day. Very, very simple. We take these, a lot of people would say, well, what if you're eating out? Perfect. We just take these with us to a restaurant with us. We ask for ice with no water. Water with no ice. I said that backwards. Water with no ice. We put it right in our bottle, put it in, shake it up, and drink it right at dinner when we eat, if we go out and eat. So simple to use. So let me share just a little bit about, a little more about the product. This product has 5 patents on it or more. I think there's now 2 pending on it. It's also in the PDR. And well, let me back up. The patents are so important because this is something that makes the product special. You can't find this anywhere else in terms of its proprietary nature and the cleanliness of it, and how much attention the company paid attention to making certain the right formulation of the nutraceuticals are, and how the product was put together. And that's one of the things I did when I researched the patent. It's in the PDR, and what that means is that's a physician's desk reference. So you can go right into your doctor and have them look this up at the PDR, which is the pdr.net. And this is where a doctor or a pharmacist can look in and take a look at a product and see how it's used, how it's prescribed, see if there's any contraindications, the side effects with the product. And you could go right online tonight, take a look at it, and show how it's used, and show that there's no side effects to this product. There's 20 plus clinical studies, and you can see on this slide here all the different places, University of Sydney, BYU, UNLV. Not going to read them all, but you can see that. It's safe and natural. The other thing is guaranteed. And what we mean by that is this company is so confident it works that they put a 90-day money-back guarantee on this product. When you use it and you go through and make certain that you're using it, they give a 90-day money-back guarantee. So this is there's no risk to this, right? You use it, doesn't work for you, they're going to give you your money back. The other thing is we call it cost neutral. And what we mean by that is that you actually save money. First, you're not eating breakfast, so you save money there. We used to stop in the morning going into work a lot, grab that frou-frou coffee, if I would say that really expensive coffee, or go grab something through a drive-up window. You don't need that. We carry our bottles with us all the time. I just have no desire to do that. And as my gut started to heal, in fact, a lot of those things are kind of gross to me now. I just don't have that desire for them. So you're saving, it's easy to go and spend $4 or $5 for a cup of coffee anymore someplace else. You're not snacking now because you just don't have the desire to snack. And also over time, you'll eat less. Now, we don't say, hey, only eat so many calories. What we do is eat until you're full, prioritize your proteins, fiber, and your healthy fats, and then carbohydrates in that order. And you'll get to the point where you actually reduce how much you eat just naturally. It's in 60 plus countries, I think 62 now, which is a really big deal, and hard for companies to get certified in other countries. And it's just a testament to the product. So you save $5 to $10 a day per person that uses this product because you're eating less, you're not snacking, and you're eating a lot healthier, which comes out to about $5.30 a day, where it's for a subscription, $159 a month. And when you get it through one of us here on this call tonight, or if there's somebody on the live that you see on here that tagged you, I want you to reach out to them, because you're able to get their pricing. We get special pricing. You'll get our pricing, and you'll also get support from us in coaching. And so we're here to support you. Guys, if I missed anything, Alan, Wayne, Kim, in sharing about the product that you'd like to add?
I think you covered it well.
I would add that, it's cost neutral, like Scott mentioned, because you're skipping breakfast and snacks and typically not eating as much. We save twice the amount that it costs, but we say it's just cost neutral. So there's really no risk. I mean, give this a 3-month adult time frame. Took me decades to mess up my body. I can't expect to fix it in a week or a month. Give it a 3-month adult time frame. If it doesn't work for you, they 90-day money back guarantee. I'd also add that if you ever been paid for Weight Watchers or XYZ, where you pay for a diet type program, which again, this is a metabolic program. It's not diet, it's just a nice offshoot. But if you ever went to those, has Weight Watchers, for instance, I'm not picking on them, but have they ever give you a 90-day money back guarantee? And is it somehow cost neutral? Maybe there's something you save there, but I have never seen anything like a 90-day money back guarantee. These guys stand behind the product because they know it works.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's guys, I really appreciate you coming on here tonight. And for the folks that's listening, reach out to one of these folks if you're interested and want to have more questions or interested about how you can get the product. Make certain that you reach out to them. And again, if there's somebody that tagged you and invited you to this live tonight, reach out to them or myself. And we would love to be there and help you through this. This is something that we are so passionate about, because we've got testimonies that are real, that has really touched each and every one of our lives. And I know in talking with Alan, Kim, and Paul, it's become their passion to share this. And so this is the moment that could be your time to reset. You were made for purpose. You were made for clarity, and you were made to feel great. So give this a shot and reach out to one of us. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you, guys, for joining, sharing your stories. Really appreciate it. And
Thanks, Scott.
thank you very much. And you guys have a good evening. Thank you.
You too. Thank